Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome into the DFS Minute brought to you by DFSArmy.com, your one-stop shop for everything daily fantasy sports, all tools, all coaching, all content, one price. Coupon code CHOP earns 20% off each and every month. You can find everything down there in the comments section, and that's all we're going to say about that because the DFS Minute is designed to bring you quick hitting commentary that you don't see anywhere else in the industry. And I think I have a doozy for you today. I've got a few of them rattling around in my brain, but we were talking about hockey today, and it's not hockey related only, so don't just click tune off because it's hockey. But I want you to understand a couple of things with what we talk about inside DFS Army for the coaching that you might want as a player, because it's not about which player's better, this guy or that guy. That's crap. It's about how do I beat these jackasses out here in the industry. And Jester has been really, really good lately inside our community and asking the right questions and trying to get better and being actually more and more impressed with the community as he digs in. I think he's like everybody else. He came in, said, whatever, I'll give it a try. Didn't really get much out of the conversation, out of anything. But then one day, about a week ago, asked the right question, triggered a response out of a coach, and it's been nothing but dust in the rearview mirror since for this guy. And it's been fun to watch because now he's growing as a player, he's learning as a player, he's getting better as a player, he's asking even better questions. And this is what people do, is they get in here and they start growing and they become better and better and better players because they start thinking a little bit differently. So he asked about this cash build, said he was frustrated last night that he felt he built a pretty good lineup and it didn't cash, at least not very well. So he was asking, what's up? Why not? Did I do something wrong? And the answer was no. Kind of explained a little bit about early thought process or whatever, and I just jumped in and said, are you tracking those results in 50-50s? Because how are you cashing over 30 or 50 slates? If you actually track your results, you guys might be surprised. You do better than you think you do. You think you're this glorious loser, and you're probably in the 40, 50, maybe 60, 55% range at the number of times you can. You're not cashing only 25% of the time, which is what it feels like. But if you actually track your results, you'll figure this out, okay? And I've showed it 1,000 times. Not going to bore you with it today, but I track my own results, and generally, I'm trying to get over 50% in the 50-50s. I'm trying to get over 30% in triple ups, over 20% in quintuple ups, whatever. And if I do, I play those contests in that sport. As for cash builds, realize this game is incredibly volatile, meaning hockey, way worse than NBA. 50 slates isn't going to give you a sample of what it looks like. In poker, we talked about a reliable sample of being over 800 hours at a live casino, and that is a lot. Or 10,000 hands online, which is also a lot. If you played multiple tables, you used to be able to knock that out, I don't know, in a few days. But generally, it took people a month to knock that out. And that gives you a lot of ups and a lot of downs and then a general trend. Are you trending up or trending down over the long run? That takes the variance out of the equation and gives you a little better idea of how quality, how much your play is competitive to everybody else. And too many people judge themselves way too soon in DFS. They go a couple of sessions, they lose, they go, I suck, what am I doing wrong? It might be nothing. Your sample size isn't big enough, okay? In DFS, because there's so much luck in these players and multiple players at that, the edge is inherently smaller in daily fantasy sport, which is a good thing because it means you have a chance, but it's a bad thing because it means your sample size needs to be so much larger to even get a handle on whether or not you beat this game, okay? So trying ladder system now, NBA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. How would I track it in the FDA? Okay, now I'll tell him that in a little bit. But this was his cash lineup yesterday, and this was the one that he wanted the help with, okay? Yeah, it didn't help. Grant was ruled out, but probably would have cashed. Yeah, you would have, because at 112.5, that was the money line in my 50-50 last night. So right around 112, 113 was the money line, and Grant getting you just 2 points would have cashed a little bit better in these spots than it did. So whatever. Late news, pay attention to it. When it breaks late, like NBA, sometimes it sucks. It's rare in NHL. So it's not a bad lineup. There's some suggestions that you can do, but I'm going to focus on mine and what I told the guy. No offense to Grown Fool here, but being from the industry, being from yesterday anyway, I would, how volatile 3-game slates are. It's the first thing I would tell the guy. So let's arbitrarily pretend 1,000 slates is the magic number to get around the variance and know to what degree you beat the game. For a small slate like 2 to 4 games, you might as well double or triple that number so that you don't comfortably know, because the 3-game slate is more volatile than a 9-game slate, which means you need an even larger sample size to know whether or not you beat the game at that level, okay? We can look at the fundamentals of the lineup itself. Blackwood was recommended all over. I walk him through. McKinnon was Very, very, very chalky. Sort of had to be used. Kane because we had value everywhere. Draisaitl, strong cash play. Falk is a good value play. Sod was on the top line. Doesn't correlate with Kane, but not terrible. I've done it on occasion in cash games, especially. Mata and Grant were my only question marks, but he has 5 or 6 very, very solid cash plays on a short slate. There's no issues with this lineup. It just didn't cash. Okay, it landed dead on the money line. So meaning, depending on the luck of the contest you're in, because all the money lines are a little bit different, then you're going to get some over and some under, and he wound up with more under the money line than over. So, but he was really, really close, and that's all that really matters. Being that the players themselves didn't really have the nights that some of them could have had, or whatever. It's just that's the game. But Grown Fool said something up above. In double ups, you're playing against the optimizer, and that's what spurred on this DFS minute. And I'm trying to go as fast as I can, guys. I don't want this to take 10 or 15 minutes, but I haven't heard it stated that way. It is exactly what DFS has turned into. Everybody uses optimizers. Back in the day in poker, we used HUDs, heads-up displays. After about 1,000 hands, if I could get that many on you, I knew exactly where the holes in your game were, and I could exploit them. Okay? But in this game, we're using algorithms and optimizers to pick the players in the best matchups, in the best spots. And that's going to yield strong results a lot of the time. And especially as we refine our optimizers or our projections, it's going to get better and better and better. But all that does is glom everybody up around the money line. And Grown Fool made point of that too, that it gloms everybody up around the money line because nobody's differentiating, because everybody's playing the same damn basic lineups with 7 or 8 players. It all becomes a 1v1 or a 2v2 type of competition. And it honestly is destroying the fun of cash games. It is turning these cash games in DFS into boring snooze fests, because if you can't get over the giant herd of people, then you can't win. Now, how do you get over the herd? Well, the herd is going to be pretty good. They're going to be pretty solid most nights. That meat of that bell curve, if you will, is going to be higher than it was 3 or 4 years ago in terms of score. So it's going to be harder to get over. So how do you get over it? You've got to take some risk. These days, you have to take some risk. And by doing so, the other side of that bell curve, once you get past the peak or the meat of that bell curve, then the whole thing falls off pretty damn sharply because nobody's taking risk. So you jump over that and you get into the triple ups and the quintuple ups and whatever else too, because once you get over the meat of the bell curve, the rest are gonna fall like dominoes, and you need to be exposed to those safe yet upside 3x, 5x, whatever type contests, because that's what's going to actually build your bankroll. And it's going to buy you margin for error on the nights that you fall short. Because if the night you fall short, say 3 nights in a row, and then you hit a night where you get past the double up line and that's all you do is double up, you did not make up for your losses. But if it's only 10 points farther to get through the triple up and the quintuple up, now you've triggered some 4.5, 5x return on your money for the same exact lineup with the same exact risk in it. You don't have to hit the 50-50 line quite as often, because when you get past the 50-50 line, you unlock triples and quintuples and whatever else, and that's what actually is going to repay the 2 or 3 nights that you missed before. So instead of winning 60% of the time, I don't even have to win 50% of the time in those 50-50s. All I have to do is win, say, 40% of the time, 42% of the time, and I make up for it with the profit on the nights that I do win. That buys me margin for error. It buys me longevity. It buys me longer terms of not redepositing and allows me to enjoy my game longer. And if I can do that indefinitely, I can start taking shots at tournaments and GPPs and not give a crap if I hit them or not, because my cash games are still making up for things and keeping me kind of indefinitely playing the game. But in the meantime, I'm taking those lottery shots, and one of these nights I will hit. One of these nights I will hit the big score. And that's where my bankroll takes the big boost. So this is how you're playing these games. You're using these cash games and these upside contests together in the ladder strategy, which I'm going to be rewriting, as soon as I can get it kind of into my head and back out onto paper and whatnot. But if you need to look it up, just Google search DFS Army ladder system or something like that and read the couple of articles that we have out there. They will change the way you think about daily fantasy sports. And they're 4 and 5 years old. We've been on this from the beginning. So sure, it sounds unfair when everybody has that optimizer or has that algorithm or whatever. You need that advantage, and that's what I just covered with getting past that meat of that bell curve. So key pivots, chalk A or chalk B. Everybody's on chalk A like McKinnon, but that means McDavid was a decent chalk B last night. That is a way to get around that herd. McDavid falters a little bit, or McKinnon falters a little bit. McDavid has the better night. Bing, bang, boom. You jump all that curve because McKinnon was 85% owned. It doesn't mean that nobody had McKinnon and McDavid, but it means that a lot of people didn't. So you jump past all those people and you easily cash. That's the type of leverage that we can start talking about and using in cash games. You won't hear that anywhere else in the industry. People will say, oh, chalk only, chalk bullshit. You need to be able to exploit that chalk when it is overcooked. And in these optimizer games, it is overcooked. How do you use this? Another way you can use this is you can get into an optimizer, whether it's with us or with the other sites or whatever, and run their lineups blind, and then take a look at what everybody is going to see when they do the same thing. And the casual player doesn't dig into the optimizers, doesn't look much further than that superficial first run or two. You can look at where they're going to likely be, and then you can look at other reasonable options and contemplate going somewhere else. And on short slates, it's very important. That's where you can leverage ownership the most. So here's the meat of the bell curve I was telling you about. And I know we're running long, I apologize, but I'm talking fast and hopefully this is sinking in. Blue curve used to be what the industry was. Okay? A lot of people could get kind of somewhere and then there's a steady drop off afterwards, right? And the money line was low, let's say 100 points arbitrarily. Today, the meat of the bell curve has shifted. Bing. And there's not a lot under here. It's even steeper than this, but it gets up to a higher point that is further down the road. Let's call it 115 or 120 points. God, in NBA it's worse because NBA it used to be hard to hit 300 points. Now if you don't hit 300 points, you don't even cash. So it's changed. Optimizers have changed the game. Shift that line forward, and now we need to get past this mark. Well, we used to get past this mark pretty easily with really safe, no upside lineups because we had a bunch of droolers in there playing the games that were sitting there with their, kind of, I want to play my favorite team tonight, and they didn't understand the game. Those guys are gone. Those guys are either educated or they quit, which is why this education and these optimizers have allowed the money lines to go shwump over here. And when they're sitting over here now, it's harder to get to, let alone get past. So how do you do that? You need some upside again. But once you do get past this meat of this bell curve where everybody else stops because they're only using optimizers, they're not using their heads, they're using optimizers, the drop off is sharper. And when the drop off is sharper, it takes less distance to get into the higher and higher percentages. It doesn't take as much to build a top 30% lineup, top 20% lineup, top 10%, top 5%, top 1% lineup anymore because the drop off is sharper. My lineup only needs to move, say, 5 points and it jumps, 5 or 10 percentage points. It goes from a triple up to a quintuple up in those 10 points. Track it. Go watch it. Pay attention to it. It's going to change the way you think if you interpret it the right way. So all I need to do is build for out here and then throw it in these contests. The ladder system is still revolutionary. So back in the day, people used to peak in the bell curve. Today, the green line, get over the green line, you need to take some quality risk. And that's what I showed you, a couple of pivots, maybe some stacking or some correlation, especially in a baseball or a hockey type of game. If you get barely over it, you shoot right through triple ups and quints. So this goes right back into everything else we talked about. Playing the game too safe with pure cash builds is just not going to work anymore. There is no such thing as a cash only player anymore. He's a trash only player. What you need to be asking yourself is not, do I need my floor anymore? It's, do I have floor and upside? You need both. If you don't have both, the player's trash. Let that sink in for a minute. If you only have floor, the player's trash. He has to have upside because he has to get you past that farther on down the road, that higher score money line that we're dealing with these days. If you don't have that upside, you can barely get over the 50-50 lines anymore. You need to change the way you think. And in order to change it, and we'll talk about this stuff more inside the VIP room. So you can see I've missed 21 messages since I've made this video. I'm going to get back to that and start teaching the people that are actually VIP members here. If you need that type of advice or that stuff helps you, rather than the how's my lineup look or how about this player A or player B, stop being one-dimensional. Make yourself multi-dimensional. Make yourself actually grow as a player. Get your butt in here. Start learning from the pros. Start learning from the experts. And start making your game a stronger game and exploit the casual players that are out there that are still the droolers. They're not drooling like they used to, but they're still drooling when you're past them, when you're looking at them in your rearview mirror. So get in here and look at them in your rearview mirror. Use that coupon code CHOP, CHOP, get that 20% off discount. Get in here for the holidays. Start playing through the new year, start fostering conversation with me, with other people, whatever. Try to avoid the player A or player B questions and ask the questions that matter. What do I need to do to beat this game? Use the link in the coupon code down there in the description. Like and subscribe the video while you're down there, and I'll be back again with another DFS minute, in this case a DFS quarter hour. I apologize for it running long, but it is what it is. When I get to running on a thought, I'm just going to go. Hopefully that helps you and it benefits you. Likes, subscribes, retweets, things like that are what show me that this content is working for you, and I would love sharing it if you love absorbing it. Take care. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow or the next day.